it's Helen. It is day 3 of Vlogmas, and today I thought I would do my November wrap up. It's going to be a long one. There was 21 books, which is great because I had 14 on my list to read for my Scrabble and second Cousin TBR, but that went totally out the wall. I really struggled mentally during the month of November, so I just had to go with what I felt. So I read 2 of Nikki's picks. I didn't get round to the Twitter poll one, and I read 1, 2, 3 of the letters for Scrabble. I took part in Believathon and completed all 13 books of that, so I'd swapped quite a few of those in. So I'm kind of gutted that I didn't get round to the ones that I planned to read, but not too disappointed in myself because I read plenty and I just had to go with how I was feeling at the time. So I might as well go through what I read for. No, I'll go through them in order, and then for the Believathon ones I'll tell you what prompts they were for. So the first one that I read was, well, I kind of finished it off because it was from October's TBR, yeah. The Little Flower Shop by the Sea by Ali McNamara. It's basically about a girl called Poppy who opened up, well, she reopened up a flower shop that had belonged to her gran. This flower shop was very special because a lot of the people went to get these flowers because the flowers that they got changed their lives in a positive way. She went there feeling very cynical, and she ended up falling in love and really, well, with the community and with a person. It was okay. I give it 3 stars. I'm glad I've read it, but it's not one that I think is very memorable. I read this at the beginning of the month, and unless I'd read the back, I wouldn't have been able to tell you what I remembered about it. But nice, easy read. The second one that I read was Malamander. That's a middle grade by Thomas Taylor. So this was my first book for Believathon. It was for the Key Reader Mystery. I really loved Malamander. I'd put it off for a long time because I knew it was about a monster and I just didn't really fancy that story, but I loved the character of Herbie Lemon. I loved the idea of him visiting the Airy book dispensary to find a book that way. I did wonder if it was going to be a bit like Scooby-Doo and if Sebastian Eel was going to end up being the Malamander. And I was really looking forward to reading Gargantis after that, which I did read later on in the month, I shall see coming up. I gave that one 4 stars. Really pleased with it. So glad that I'd seen people recommending it because, yeah, that completed my first prompt for Believathon. The next one I read was Planet Stan, which was recommended to me by Nikki. It's basically about a boy called Stan. He loves graphs and charts. It's almost like his diary with pictures and things, and he's got a little brother who he finds really annoying. It's not very memorable. I give it 3 stars. I enjoyed it because Sophie enjoyed hearing little bits of the story and the funny things that his little brother used to do. But it was a feel-good family book. It's something I'll read with Sophie when she's older. So thanks for Nikki for recommending it because it wasn't a bad read at all. The next book I read was The Silver Chair, another middle grade in the Narnia series. I think this is the penultimate one. Is there 7 altogether? I've got The Last Battle still to go. This by C.S. Lewis. Enjoyed it. Remembered watching the BBC adaptation when I was younger with, I think it's Tom Baker in it. Yeah, I didn't remember as much from the TV adaptation as I thought, so this jogged my memory. It was one of my more favourite ones of the Narnia series. I give it 3 stars. So yeah, worth a go if you want to make your way through that series. I will do a ranking of the complete series once I've finished The Last Battle. So that was good. That was for, hang on, let me find it. I did that for Believathon. I think that was read a book. It wasn't a dangerous setting. It was, I won't be able to find it now easily. Oh, there you go. Read a book in an alternative world to your own. So I read that. I could, like I said, I could picture some of the characters from the BBC adaptation, and I can see why people think that these books have religious connotations, like because there was just things in that story to do with Aslan and like his sacrifice and stuff like that just remind me of having religious connotations to it. So I can see why people would think C.S. Lewis wrote it in that way. So the next book I read was the middle grade monthly book for October, but I didn't get round to it in October. Ghost Squad. Oh, I was disappointed with this book. I was really excited for it. I did like it in parts. Let me see. It was for Believathon. I read it for, let me find it, a book containing ghosts, if I can find it here, because I wrote all my thoughts in when I got them so that if I got to this and I couldn't remember what I'd read. Book featuring ghosts, spilled ink. I loved Babette the character. If she did a book about Babette and herself, I would read that. I felt the concept was great, but the execution wasn't that good. It felt quite childish. And considering it's a middle grade ghost story, you'd expect it to have a bit more to it. It felt too rushed and like it needed to be longer. I felt like things started to happen quite quickly, too easily for the characters. And some parts was a bit confusing because I read it a while ago now. I can't remember which bits I found confusing, but I got to the end and I had quite a few questions, and not in a, oh, this could turn into a new book kind of way, but in a, this wasn't explained very well kind of way. So I liked the bits that I considered to be well written, but it needed a lot more work than that. So I would consider reading another book by Claribel Ortega to see if there's progression there. So yeah, it's not one of my favourite middle grade monthlies. Again, I'm going to be ranking them soon, but yeah, it was okay. The next one I read was SEO Trot. This was one of the ones off my Scrabble letters, thank goodness. I read this one for, let me see, did I do this one for Believathon? I thought I had. SEO Trots, maybe I didn't. Maybe I didn't. Yeah, really short read. Oh, here we go. I give it 2 stars because I had some issues with this book. It's basically a story about an old man conning an old woman and getting her to marry him under false pretenses. That's how I saw it. Anybody who's got a pet loves that pet for who that person is, who that pet is. He basically, because she's worried that her pet isn't growing the way it should, he swaps it out with other tortoises. So that pet isn't her original pet, it's a different tortoise, and I thought that was wrong. And he also liked it when she said that she'd be a slave to him if he helped her. It was so problematic. I give it 2 stars. I'd read it with Sophie as the collection of Roald Dahls, but yeah, I won't be recommending that. The next one that I read was Crater Lake. This was one of the ones that Nikki recommended to me. I read it for Believathon for... Sorry, I have to keep checking through this because I can't remember all the different prompts that I read them for. It's by Jennifer Killick. I read it for... Oh, there you go. Set in a dangerous setting, The Dagger. I liked it that it was not too spooky, but it was just thrilling enough. It had great characters, good pacing. I give it 4 stars. I hope... Oh, I think there is another one. There is another one coming out. Crater Lake 2. There's a name to it. I don't think it's just called Crater Lake 2. Nikki also interviewed, well, yeah, did a Q&A session with Jennifer Killick through the library that I work at for local schools to see. I saw the initial video where Jennifer talked about her writing and herself. I haven't fully watched the Q&A yet. I might watch that after this. Actually, she seems like a really nice person. Yeah, I really enjoyed this a lot. I would recommend this. Like I said, I give it 4 stars. Next, I read one called Toad Attack by Patrice Lawrence. Again, this is why my TBR got mixed up this time as well, is because through work they were doing Q&As with authors, and I wanted to watch some of those videos, but I wanted to make sure that I'd read some of those books in order to watch them so I knew what was being talked about. So I had to try and pick shorter ones by those authors so that I could fit them in. Let me see if I can find this one. Toad Attack. I gave this 4 stars because I just enjoyed the story. It was so short, it might have even been less than 60 pages. It was a charming story. I was intrigued to know where the toads had come from and what would happen. Basically, it's a school that creates a garden and they're in a competition with other schools and their gardens, and in order to win, the head teacher of this school has let toads run by it, and yeah, it was just good. I'd read it with Sophie. I was so impressed by Patrice Lawrence when I watched her video about herself. She talks a lot about her background. She's a person of colour, and it was just very interesting about her growing up. And then she did the Q&A, and she'd done a PowerPoint for her talk about herself. She's talking a lot about how her background influenced her writing. I think a lot of her other books are a lot more hard hitting and talk about a lot of important issues. This was just a fun book for children, so, and because it was short, that's why I picked it. But I am definitely going to read more about Patrice Lawrence because she was so impressive talking to the schools, and her life seems so interesting. So yeah, definitely read more Patrice Lawrence. The next one I read again was for this reading festival through work, and it was Adventure Duck versus Power Pug. I think that was by Steve Cole. He is brilliant for children. His videos, he was singing in them, almost rapping at parts. Considering in that first video the author was talking to themselves but to the screen so that the kids would be able to watch at schools, it was so entertaining. This book I gave 2 stars purely because there wasn't a lot to it. It didn't make a lot of sense in parts, but I think that's some of his appeal to children, is that it's a bit out there. I don't have much to say about it because I didn't think there was much to it, but I'm impressed with him. I would read other stories by him, and I will encourage Sophie to read some of his stuff too. Maybe not that one. The next one I read was Inside Out and Back Again. This was one that I picked up. I was going to read from a Scrabble TBR, Other Words for Home, for the a person in a different culture to you. But then I found I'd been recommended by mytbr.co a book called Inside Out and Back Again by, oh, I can't remember her first name. I'll put it underneath here. It's something Lay. This story is basically about a little girl who comes over to as a refugee from the country that she was in, and it's talking about how she what's the word, integrates into our country, how she's treated at school, how her family are treated. It was so special, this story. It's told in verse, which I wasn't sure I'd like, but it wasn't like reading almost poetry. It was just how a child would speak in a diary format, I think, to themselves. It was gentle, less harsh because it was a middle grade. I read one called Girl of Kosovo this year in about May time, and that was a bit more hard hitting. It was a quick read because of the verse, and I give it 5 stars because it was so special. It's something that I think every child should read, to understand what it must feel like to come from another country where you've really had a hard background, to then try and integrate yourself but not feel welcome and not totally understand everything that's going on. and for your family, even where they living in the street, to be treated poorly as well. So yeah, definitely would recommend that one. Then I read Honey, I Homeschool the Kids. I read this as part of the Gilmore Girls readathon. I just took on too much this month trying to fit loads of things in. But I really enjoyed this one. I gave it 4 stars. It's a non-fiction. It's by Nadia Sawalia and her husband, talking about homeschooling their 3 girls. 3 girls, 2 girls, 2 girls. Oh God, I can't even remember. But they've got at least 2 daughters. I think it's 2. And it was really clear from quite early on that the youngest daughter really, the school environment wasn't working for her. She was really struggling in there. They didn't worry so much at the beginning about their older daughter because she seemed to be coping okay, but it was only as time went on she realised how unlike herself her daughter was becoming, and so they decided to move her out of school as well. They talk about the pressure you can put yourself under when you're trying to homeschool, the criticism that you come up against from other parents and the media. They talk about the support and where it came from when they were trying to homeschool the children. It talks about lockdown and how everybody then got into that position of having to think about homeschooling the children. It definitely says from the start that they're not experts in it, they're still learning as they go along, but they just want to share their experience so other parents don't feel alone. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It's not, I've always thought that Sophie would be better in school if we could enable that. She seems to be coping with it very well, but I'd like to think that if she started to struggle, that I would have the confidence to attempt to homeschool her ourselves. Me and Andy have got different strengths, so we would cover different subjects. I think in terms of mixing with other children, school is good for Sophie. She's a very sociable person. Intellectually, she's managing at school. The only reason I think that I would really consider taking Sophie out of school is if bullying was an issue. I was bullied in high school. It was a horrible time for me. I came out of the other end and had some okay years in school after that. But I would not want Sophie to experience that. And if it couldn't be sorted, I would be taking her out if it was making her unhappy. My parents did everything they could to help me, and in the end I did get that support from the school, but it took a long time. And so that would be a reason that I would pull Sophie out if I was losing my joyful little girl. That would be a reason. But hopefully it never comes to that. She's dealing with school very well, but this book was so interesting, so consider reading it if it's something you even considered thinking about. And yeah, I would recommend. The next book I read was The Disappearing Daughter. Can I remember the author of that? I'll put it here. Again, memory loss. This was basically another one for the reading festival for the library that I work at. It was a book about a girl on a movie set who gets kidnapped, and people go looking for her, and somebody's seen clues, and I don't remember a lot about it. I give it 3 stars. It was okay. I'm sorry I can't tell you more because I just didn't think that much about it. The next one is Troubled Blood. I'm going to say it's by Cormoran Strike because that's the only way I can think about it. I'm not going to say any more than that. It's a thriller. I listened to it on an audiobook. I've decided not to rate it on Goodreads, and so that's all I'm going to say about it because the actual author doesn't deserve the time. The next book I read was P.S. I Still Love You. I've missed one out, have I? Or did I read? When did I read To All the Boys I Loved Before? Did I read that last month? Oh yeah, So I read To All the Boys, sorry, the lighting then. Last month I read To All the Boys I've Loved Before and really enjoyed it. So when I was really struggling mentally to pick some books up, I thought, you know what, I'm going to carry on with that series. It was an easy read, I enjoyed it. So I read P.S. I Still Love You, which is a YA by Jenny Han, and I give it 4 stars. I think I give To All the Boys I Loved Before 3 stars, did I? Yeah, so I actually preferred this second one. Same kind of story. It's following on from sending these letters out to the boys, and she's in a relationship with Peter now, and it's following that. Can't say too much because I don't want to spoil that book, any of the books if you haven't read them. But I also read Always and Forever Lara Jean, not the book after this, the next book, and I give that one 4 stars as well. And yeah, I can't say anything about him. It's a shame. So I won't mention Always and Forever Lara Jean again because I've just said that I've already read that. But I have completed the series and I'm chuffed about that because there are a lot of series that I want to finish and I might do a video on that because I'm in the middle of a lot. So it felt great to finish that. I've now started watching the Netflix series. I've seen the first one. I'm now on to the second one, and I'm liking that too. So yeah, give those a go if you want. If you're looking for something just easy to read. I felt quite relaxed by reading those. So the next one I listened to was Once Upon a Time by Ant and Dec. I got it through Audible. I've grown up with Ant and Dec, SMTV, all that Chums, Wonky Donkey, loved all that. I loved it when they presented Friends Like These. I loved CD UK. I love Britain's Got Talent. I love I'm a Celebrity, and they're a big part of those shows. Love Saturday Night Takeaway. Me and Andy recently watched the Internet DNA Journey. It's got us hyped about looking into our family history. We're now considering even starting to watch Who Do You Think You Are, which I didn't think I'd be interested in because it's other people's family history, and you just assume that you're only going to be interested because you know the people involved in yours. So yeah, I'm grateful for that. But it's a great book of the two of them to celebrate their 30 years together on screen. They're just likeable lads. You can tell, even though they've obviously earned a lot of money now, they're very down to earth. I don't think they'll ever forget where they've come from. And it's a strong friendship, and it's got through a lot in the last couple of years. So and they touch upon that in the book as well, which is nice. So I gave that 4 stars. The only reason I didn't give it 5 stars is because I listened to the audio book, and I'm assuming it'll feel the same way if you're reading it as well. Well, no, I don't think it would be that. Listening to it, it was like they were just reading off a script, and they didn't kind of have that ad-lib thing that they've got. I mean, they did look through the pictures in the book and describe them to you, which was quite nice, but it just didn't quite, it didn't have the usual personal touch, I don't think, but maybe that's just me. Then, like I said, Always and Forever Lara Jean, but I won't go into that. Next, I read Bedknobs and Broomsticks. This is one that I'd bought within the last month or two, I think. It never got picked for one of the Twitter polls that I'd put it up for. It's by Mary Norton, who did The Borrowers. I was disappointed in this. It was okay. It's 2 stories combined in one book. It's very different to the Disney one. I do wonder what Mary Norton thought of this being Disneyfied for the screen, because if you remember P.L. Travers with Mary Poppins, when you watched Saving Mr. Banks, it was quite clear from that film that she was not pleased with how they'd interpreted her story. Disney made this very different too. I love the Disney film. It's still worth reading. I did enjoy it, but I don't know, I just miss the Disney pizzazz, I think. So like I said, I give this 3 stars, but I'm not sure about it. Mrs. Price was a different kind of character in it. The children weren't brought in from the war. They just needed someone to look after them. when their aunt died and they decided to go and live with her, with Mrs. Price. Mr. Cornelius Brown, he wasn't called that in this, he was called something different. Um, is it Cornelius Brown? Whatever, Mr. Brown, he was different in it. He didn't go off to the war. He was back in history rather than in current day. Yeah, there wasn't all the talking animals and stuff like that. So yeah, it's worth a read, but very different to the Disney one. Next, I reread George's Marvelous Medicine with Sophie because she wanted to start reading it again. She'd read it in school, we'd read it together, and she wanted to go. Oh no, I read it myself for Believathon last time. Sophie had been reading it in school. I told her we had the book at home, and she said, "Yeah, can we read that?" So we have been. She's in the. I don't know if she's finished Fantastic Mr. Fox with Andy. She's reading the Twits at school at the minute, so we've started reading that at home too because she wanted to. So yeah, same as what I thought last time. 3 stars. It's entertaining for kids. I remember going and seeing it at the theatre with my mum and my sister for my sister's birthday many years ago, and we took one of her friends with us. It's one of the least offensive Roald Dahls, considering it's about blowing your gran up. Then next I read Gargantis. I think I read this for a book published in 2020 for Believathon. I've give it 4 stars. Great again. Same, loved the characters again. Let's see what else. So I didn't write much about it. I just can't wait till he brings another one out. I hope he does. I'm pretty sure he is bringing another one out. I could see this going running as a mystery for different things, because we're still waiting to find out what's happened to Herbie's parents. We're still waiting to find out what's happened to Violet's parents. I like to think they're all still living, but you never know. There's a returning baddie in this one. Yeah, book dispensary still there dispensing books. It doesn't feel when you're reading it like it's for children. It just feels like a regular mystery book. So that was very nice. So enjoyed that one. Next I read The Crooked Sixpence. Again, it was too late for the live show for Middle Grade Monthly, but at least I've still read it and was able to watch the show afterwards. Really good, 4 stars. It's basically about a girl who her gran has an accident. They get back to the gran's house after leaving her at the hospital, and her house has been ransacked. And then people start chasing them, and they end up getting shoved into a suitcase and going into a completely other world where objects that you see every day around your house have different qualities and are magic and are basically called uncommon items. So then she finds out that she is actually an uncommoner and actually belongs in that world, really. And it's finding out the mystery of who her nan was, because her nan had an accident years ago and forgot who she was. 4 stars, loved it. It's by Jennifer Bell, who did Wonderscape. I give Wonderscape 3 stars. I actually preferred this, and this was a debut novel, and I think there's quite a few in this series, so I have put the next one on hold. I can't remember the name of it. I've took it back to the library now, but I was impressed enough to want to continue with that series, so there's another series that I've got to finish. The last one I finished for the month, I was so impressed. I had 2 books left to go in 2 days in which to read them, and I managed it. I worked really hard to get them finished. I've never been a fan of reading sprints. Well, I forgot to write the candle. Let's do that while we're sat here. And I haven't shown you my t-shirt yet either. Sorry, I will get onto the jumbies in a minute. I'll try not to burn the tree down. What happened in yesterday's, beg your pardon the light, I put the candle under this decoration, didn't realise that the heat would melt the glue of the head. So now I've just got a head on the tree and the body dangling down. So there's candle number 3. I love this little light. It's like, reminds me of like Wee Willie Winky running through the town with the lamp. I love that. So this is my Christmas jumper. Oh. fabulous. So there you go. So yeah, in terms of the Jumbies by Tracy Baptiste, this was, I think, like the Halloween book of the month for Middle Grade Monthly. It was the only one I couldn't get at the time. Everybody had sold out of it. And then recently when I did the one of the offers for double stamps at Waterstones, it was available, so I got it because I thought there is no way that out of all the 12 books I am going to just be missing one for Middle Grade Monthly. I want to rate them all for a start. So I gave this 4 stars. Really loved it, considering it was kind of like a really thrillery type of horror middle grade. I get dead scared dead easy, so I was thinking, oh god, I've been putting it off for ages. And then on the back it says ages 8 to 12, and I thought, come on Helen, pull it together. It's basically Caribbean folklore. I read this for Believathon for read a book containing folklore. I was going to read, as part of my Scrabble TBR, The Girl Who Drank the Moon, which I still really want to read, but that was nearly 400 pages. This is 200 and something. Yeah, 230 odd. So I thought, I'm going with the Jumbies, and I'm so glad I did. I loved this story. It's basically talking about the Jumbies that live in the forest, and this town's always treated them like they're evil and something to be scared of, when actually it's like these Jumbies have been here before anybody came to this island where they are, and you've just angered them by burning the trees down and just affecting their living environment. So it's kind of, when you get to the end, it's kind of like, let's try and live together in the same area. But it's the story of Corinne and her dad, and how he's always told her these Jumbies don't exist, but then they in the little family get overtook by Jumbies, and it really creates havoc in their life. So this is a book I would definitely recommend. I would read more by Tracy Baptiste. I don't know if this is her first one or whether she's got more to come, but if she has, I'm going to be reading those. So that is all 21. So completed all of Believathon, read 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think I only read 5 of the 14 books that I planned for my November TBR. So I want to apologise for Nikki for not reading 2 of the books that she read, and to you guys for not reading the Twitter poll, but my mental health was of utmost importance during November. So what I have decided to do, for in a few months' time, I've started writing down all the ones that I've missed since September time off my TBRs, and I'm going to have a month where that is my TBR for that month. It's going to be those I've missed that are on the list, or something like that. I haven't decided what it's called, but you will see that, and that whole month will just be reading the books that I've not read yet. If I start adding them in the coming months, great, they'll get knocked off the list, but I would like to think that I've got about 12 or 13 that I can create that TBR from. So I will read them, and I will read that Twitter pic, I will read those 2, and any impasse ones that I've swapped out. I promise to do better with December. Like I've said, I've already started on my Cinder buddy read, which is one of the books that Steph picked for me. I've already started on my Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine buddy read with my sister. That is one of the Scrabble letters that I got. So I'm going to do better for December. There's a lot more easygoing books in December, happy, clappy, Christmassy, wintry feel ones, so it should be a lot easier to do. You would have thought this month being more middle grades that it would have been easier, but something was putting me off a lot of them because they were quite dark and I just wasn't in that right mood. So I hope this was okay. It was a bit all over the place, but I was a bit all over the place in November, so I will try and be more to the point in with December's wrap up. And oh, sorry, the lighting again. Every time I move, it's like the camera can't tell where I am. And yeah, I'll even come up with some stats, because I started doing my stats, and as you can see from this, all the page numbers, I just didn't keep track of it, so I can't even give you all the stats of what was what, but hopefully you've got enough information there. I'm going to stop this video now because it's nearly at 35 minutes. So this was what day are we on? Day 3. Day 3 of Vlogmas, and I will see you tomorrow for day 4. Bye.